In this video, I'll tell you about the Las Vegas Open 2024, and I'll also talk about my booty. Well, I mean, the booty that I brought back from LVO. You know what I'm talking about. Last weekend, I traveled to Las Vegas, Nevada to attend the Las Vegas Open 2024 put on by Frontline Gaming. This is a miniatures convention that mostly is about being the largest Warhammer 40k tournament in the entire world. 900 plus 40k players in a single championship tournament, right? Like just massive, absolutely. However, it's not the only tournament running during the 4 days. There were dozens of tournaments and events for other GW games as well, and also Star Wars Legion and Marvel Crisis Protocol and Conquest, The Last Argument of Kings, Song of Ice and Fire, Battletech, you name it. I haven't heard the official number of attendees, but I'd suspect it was more than 4,000 total people there, at least. But you're not a tournament player, Uncle Adam, I hear you say. Why were you there? Well, it's not just a bunch of tournaments, but it's also hobby classes, a painting competition, business stuff for me, and, there's also Vegas in general, right? And also vendors in the hall also. I was there with the Army Painter in my role as part of the factory team, along with Sam Lenz and Phil the Glacial Geek. So I was hanging out in the booth a lot, talking to folks about the new Fanatic paints. And since I was in the vendor hall a lot, I ended up looking at things in the vendor hall a lot. And then I also ended up buying some of those things. Booty, if you will. So I figured, as people have been interested in seeing my booty in the past, perhaps they'd also like to see my Las Vegas booty. In the booty that I brought back from Las Vegas, the stuff, you know what I'm saying? It's getting a little weird. Anyway, the first thing that I bought wasn't even a miniatures game. It was an RPG. This is called Cyborg. Now, if you're familiar with Morkborg, which is a fantasy kind of game, like real black metal, scary, goofy, it's really awesome stuff. It's a bright yellow book with a big black skeleton on the front. You've probably seen it. I think I've talked about it in the past. I picked up my copy from PAX East in 2022 in Boston. This is the sci-fi version. You can kind of see the cool reflective coating stuff. They always go real hard in the paint on doing the printing and stuff and the layout on all these books. So I picked this up just because, I will be perfectly frank with you, probably never going to play it. And that's not against this. It's just I'm not really a role player particularly. I've mentioned that many times before. But it is just the most amazing thing to go just even page through. But if you start reading it, it's even more, more better. That's a technical term. But yeah, it's like every page is a completely different kind of looking thing. Every page is a piece of artwork. And it's really interesting to me. So when I saw they had it there, I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to have to pick this up. Basically, that's kind of a cyberpunk. I mean, sci-fi is a strong word. It's really more of a cyberpunk version of Morkborg. And it's something that I just want to get inspiration from and just have a good time reading, because I really, really enjoyed reading Morkborg as well. Then I picked up these really cool pieces of terrain, these cool buildings, from a booth called Broken Egg Games. Two of these buildings are made from a company called Tabletop World, and they are poured resin, like sculpted and then poured resin and taken out of a mold. And the other one is 3D printed. You'll be able to figure out which is which, mainly by the color. But yeah, these are very, very cool fantasy buildings with a lot going on, right? Like you got stairs back here, you got all the windows, you got all the tiny little stonework, thatched kind of roof, all that kind of stuff, back entrance, front entrance, all that. And I have to hold it this way because it's 3 levels. First of all, there's a piece of newspaper in there, for safety. And then there's also a whole bunch of extra stuff, barrels and looks like fruit and vegetables and all kinds of things to put around your place. Plus, somewhere in here, there is the chimney that goes on top of that. I'm going to glue that on there. I think I'm going to glue the building completely together. I don't ever see myself... Oh, there's the chimney. I don't ever see myself really playing this inside. You know what I mean? So I think I'm just going to glue it all together before I start painting. How does it go back together? Oh yeah, there's a little notch. So this goes here, and that goes there. So yeah, I can see myself gluing this together. putting the roof on, all that stuff, putting that thing on, and just having this pretty amazing kind of tri-level fantasy house, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. The other one over here is only like a 2-floor, but still same type of deal. Very cool. Roof comes off. There's the chimney in there. Not nearly as much stuff, but the other one's got a whole bunch of extra stuff in it, so it'll be fine for scatter terrain and everything. I just really love the amount of detail and just, the fact that it's made out of poured resin and it's not 3D printed really means that you can get super crazy fine detail in the rocks and in the little boards and all that kind of stuff. You can get some of that to some degree when you're doing FDM, and I'm going to be honest with you. So this is the 3D printed building, and I don't know who this is by, actually. I bought it from their booth, but I don't know. I know it's not the same people who do these. It's somebody else. If you know in the comments below, please let me know. But it's a nice little building, and it was relatively inexpensive. Also, top comes off, inside sculpted, little floor in there and all that kind of stuff. Games I play don't usually have an indoors, though, so I'm probably just going to glue it shut. But really decent work on this print. Like, there's not a ton of striations, maybe just a tiny little bit, but usually a decent primer will probably take care of that. So, yeah, these were hard to get back in my luggage. I had to wrap them all in newspaper and stuff like that in cardboard boxes and kind of do some construction. And there was still a little tiny bit of breakage somewhere. There's like an extra piece of resin that came off of something. I just don't know where, so I guess it's not so bad. The folks from War Scenery were right across the aisle from us, and I've seen them at Adepticon before, at least once, if not maybe twice. So I stopped over to say hello and take a look around at all their cool, 3D printed buildings and stuff like that. They got a lot of stuff for Star Wars. They got stuff for 40K and whatnot. And they also had these new Renegade Guard, which really kind of caught my eye. And they just came in a bag. There's I think 14 of them in here. I should probably open this bag. Oh, good, it's a Ziploc, so they won't go all over the place. But they're just basically kind of like Imperial Guard, but, the bad ones. The Renegades, if you will. There's a bunch of just regular gun guys in there, but then there's also somebody in there with, well, this guy's got you can see here, he's got a flamethrower. But there's also a Melta guy in there. There's also a plasma guy in there. They're just really nice little sculpts. They've got little tiny spikes all over. They're real fine. They're like good proportion. They're not too heroic and chunky, which I kind of prefer them to be a little bit more standard. And there's no mold lines, and there's no having to put them together. And I had to put together 20 plus different guardsmen for my combat patrol. And these folks are great in that I don't have to do jack. I just literally have to, every once in a while, there's like a little support you might have to knock away with the tip of your X-Acto blade. And then I'm going to paint them up. I was thinking earlier today, I think I might do red. I think I might do a deep red on these guys and then go from there. I think that might be really kind of fun. But yeah, so War Scenery. They're called Renegade Guard, and I got a whole baggie of them at the LVO. I was at a booth called Griffin's Lair. It's like a retailer, and they had a booth there. They were selling all kinds of different stuff from different game companies, especially a lot of stuff from Warlord games. They were also selling resin bits and kits and stuff like that from Cromlech. And I'll always look through those things, when I'm at a convention. I always love to look through the Cromlech stuff when I'm there. This is a kit called the Desert Raiders Guard Bodies. So it is just basically a bunch of torsos and legs, and they are in these sort of cloaks, right? And you just put on whatever heads you want, whatever arms you want, and you're ready to go. Put them on bases and start painting. These could be replaced with guard heads and guard, shoulders and arms and all that stuff, and the guns. Or you could 3D print something else, or you could find other stuff. I definitely want to take some Adeptus Mechanicus, like robot-y heads and stuff like that, and put some of those on these. I don't see myself making these into an entire unit of guys. I see these being pieces that I use in kit bashing, for other games and things like that. I need a weird sort of desert raider person who's out there in the wastelands in a cool cloak like this, and go from there. Add on legs, not legs, but add on arms, add on head, stuff like that. Add on a gun, weapons, whatever. They got stuff on their belts, a lot of packs and pouches. You don't even have to mess with that kind of stuff. They're really kind of cool. Cromlech always makes some really interesting stuff like this. I like these because this is like kit bashing, but you're 3/4 of the way there. So it's a lot of fun. If you wanted to use these for Talarn Raiders, or maybe even Steel Legion, for regular GW Imperial Guard kind of sub-factions, you could totally do that too. But if you also want to just have some really kind of interesting jumping off points for kit bashing, these are also very cool. Lastly, I stopped by the Gamer's Grass booth, which is not what you think. And these painted bases from Gamer's Grass was what I picked up. These really caught my eye. So these are pre-painted. Like, I didn't do this. They came like this, right? So, and these are 32 millimeters, but they do 25s, they do 40s, they do 50s, they do tons of different sizes, and they have a bunch of different types. This is called Temple, as you can see, but they have all kinds of other types as well. And they're basically done. Like, I don't have to do anything to them. Like, they're already ready to go. I just need to glue a guy to them, right? Like, they already have the grass on there. They're already pre-painted. The edges are even painted black, which, I mean, come on. So yeah, I'm honestly thinking about taking those Renegade Guard guys and then gluing them to these for a project and just having them on these cool temple bases. Initially, I was thinking, well, 25s will be fine for those guys, but they just felt just a little too small. I think I'm getting kind of used to having slightly larger bases, a little bit more breathing room on the base. So I kind of like 32s for most things these days. That said, my guard for my combat patrol, the regular shock troops, are all in the normal 25s as they're supposed to be, I believe. I'll have to double check on that, actually, to be perfectly frank with you. But yeah, these are just really cool. I got 2 sets of them. They were like $20 each, which for how much time it's going to save me to not have to build and then paint and then put on the stuff and all that jazz on, well, at this point now, 16 bases? That's actually a really good price. $40 for 16 bases, completely ready to go. Just glue models to them and start playing. Nice. So I didn't bring back a ton of stuff, really, but this is a convention that I have to fly to, right? So I have to consider luggage constraints. When I go to like Adepticon or Gen Con, then I'm going by car, so I end up bringing back a lot more booty sometimes. I'll be honest, I haven't been to the LVO since just before the pandemic. My last trip there was in January 2020, just before everything kind of got weird. And it's back when the convention was still at the Bally, right? And when the convention started up again, LVO, in 2022, and they moved it to the Rio, there were a lot of reports coming out of the event that honestly didn't sound very good. There's a lot of videos on YouTube you can see that talked about in 2022, there weren't enough restaurants open to actually feed the people attending the convention. And the place was really kind of run down and a lot of stuff was closed, right? However, I'll tell you that as of 2024, much of that has changed, at least in my opinion. Not only were, I think, all the restaurants open for business, but I think they actually added a whole new food court area that opened up for the first time, like while we were there. Like, I got there late Wednesday night. It didn't open Thursday, but it was open on Friday, and they had like a cheesesteak place, a sushi place, burgers, like a burrito bowl place. There was like 4 or 5 different places that everything was bright and fancy and new, right? Parts of the building are admittedly still a bit dated here and there. I mean, it was built in literally 1990. I looked it up. But they seem to be updating the facilities, so we'll see what it looks like next year as well. If you were at the LVO, I hope you got a chance to stop by the Army Painter booth and see me and say hi or whatever. I did talk to a lot of folks. Also, I hope that you had a good time there as well. I honestly sure did. It was better than I really thought. And if you were on the fence about whether you wanted to go to the 2025 Las Vegas Open, I hope that this helped in a small way to inform your decision. Also, check out the description below for links to all the booty that I brought back so you can find out if you're interested in getting it yourself. If you liked this video and my booty, a delicate smash on the like button would help me out and would also be appreciated. Subscribe if you want to see more every single Friday, and thanks for watching.